to the races.
Yeah, so a few months ago, I was thinking about Brian. Don't ask me why. I was like, come on. I mean, how can we work together again, right? I mean, we've been doing a lot of stuff, so how can we help each other again with our projects? So for those who don't know, and Brian just mentioned it, we work together on a book called Cycle. It's a book about innovation and scale ups. And actually, I was very proud to support Brian on one of the chapters, the power of clarity. So how um, explain something to the people when it comes to knowledge and innovation. And we connected again, and I've seen Brian doing a lot of work with innovation sprints. And actually, I was very happy to see that Brian was embracing the AI revolution pretty much, right? On my side, I was since many years and in the last years as well, working a lot on brand building work, working for many companies. And I was getting frustrated because I was wasting too much time with AI, trying to understand how it works overall. So yeah. So just a few words on me. So I'm a brand communication and innovation strategist. I had the chance to work on many big brands like Toyota, Lego, L'Oreal, Google, and some others. Mostly in creative, big creative agencies. Maybe you know them, the Saatchi and Saatchis of the world, the BBDOs of the world. And I was already very interested in writing thoughts and being part of big projects. So I'm one of the co-authors of the Love Marks Effects. Maybe some of you know if you are in the branding industry. And of course, Cycles with Brian. I work also with IDEO, and I work a lot with startups. And actually, my favorite companies or my favorite people that I love to work with are really people with a challenger mindset. You know, the brands that are really um, not only they want to disrupt their categories, but also they don't have many resources and they need to do more with less. So this is super exciting for me. Yeah.
So I know a lot of you here, but I'll do an introduction anyways. So my name is Bryan Cassady. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 11 companies in 6 different countries. I have 8 exits up until now. For those of you good with math, 8 out of 11 is a pretty good success rate. And that's written up in the book Cycles. I took a term, started teaching, and I love to teach. Actually, and part of the thing that's there about a teacher is the person who learns the most in the course is always the teacher. I also work with top companies, probably about 50 of the Fortune 1000. I lead a couple of accelerator programs and I teach in some top universities. I write and I'm a hands-on consultant, meaning that I have done my time as a consultant, subcontracting for companies like McKinsey, delivering big PowerPoint decks, but I'm much more hands-on trying to get companies to get results. And I'm on a mission. I don't know if this is a crazy mission, but it's to coach, train 1 million innovators by 2027. And to reach that number, I need partners and I need AI. And my favorite people to work with are, in terms of clients, middle-sized companies where I like to run sprints. Why middle-sized companies? Because you can make a bigger impact. And as far as students, I went from teaching the fortunate few to the motivated many. And I do a lot of courses in India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Malaysia, and stuff like that. And what I get really excited about is all these energy these people bring. So what we want to do in this talk is we want to revisit some discussions that Frank and I had. We can't actually do a video of us at the table, but we actually disagreed a lot. He said, that's not possible. And, come on, don't you know better than that by now? And share a bit of what we learned along the way. And some of it will be a bit awkward because we can't take you back to the beginning, but I think you'll see all the things that we talked about.
Yeah, so it all started with with the process, or I mean, what is branding and what is the process of running a branding project. It's quite challenging. It's quite tough after all. Yeah, I mean, I remember some projects with some clients, like it can take years. I mean, for big companies, it can take years to really nail it down. So last year, what I've done is I was trying to condense as much as possible all the possible steps that are important in the process. And I came down to a 5-week program. But believe me or not, a lot of companies, a lot of clients that I was working, I mean, with or just talking with, they were saying that it's a bit too long. 5 weeks is too long. I mean, times are changing, I imagine. So what I was asking Bryan is, yeah, can you help me on this?
And I came back to Frank with a question. And my background, I used to work at P&G. So 5 weeks to build, it takes us 5 months to come up with a selling line. Nothing washes whiter than Dash. I mean, that's 5 months of work. If you can come up with a brand in 5 weeks, I mean, that's pretty impressive. But at the same time, I wonder if you could make this whole process better, faster, and easier using two tools. And what I talked with Frank about was two tools. One is a sprint framework, and some of you might know sprints. And secondly is AI. And I think all of you know something about AI. And I'd like to discuss each of them one by one. So the starting point of our discussion was, sort of a philosophical discussion. Frank, have you ever heard about the Pareto principle? He said, yeah, of course, I've heard about the Pareto principle. It's also known as the 20-80 rule. But did you know it's also the 4-64 rule? And he said, what do you mean? Well, actually, 20% of 20 is 4%, and 80% of 80 is 64%. So in fact, if you look at it, you can say 20% delivers 80% of the results, but 4% delivers a 64%. The solution to getting top results is usually not about doing things faster, but about choosing what you do and what you don't do. And I asked Frank, I said, well, tell me about this branding program that you're doing over 5 weeks. Is there a way that you could take those 25 days that you're running and knock it down quite dramatically?
Yeah. So instead of because Bryan knows very well what is branding, right? So I said, well, I'm not going to go step by step, right? I'm gonna tell you what branding is. I mean, for me, but also for a lot of marketers around the world. So the branding is really about what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? I think Jeff Bezos said something like that, but many other marketers did. So it's something extremely important, right? Extremely important, and you can't really make it something sure, right? You have to explore a lot. You have to understand a lot. And my 5-week program is really divided in 3 phases, right? The first one I want to really focus on is the sensing phase. So it's really about understanding the customers, the market dynamics, the competitors. Sometimes we can talk about the 4 C's, like a quadrant with what is the corporation, what is the consumer, the competition, and the culture and trends. So that takes a lot of time. Because you really deep dive into it. Then there is a second phase that I call the architecture phase. So here it's more about like being hands-on. We are gathering for a narrative workshop to understand what is the story of everything, and then articulate the brand, articulate the strategy. And then obviously, because it's always like very important, even if the strategy for me is the core of it, but very important is the creative phase. How does it feel like? How does it look like? Yeah. So this is what I said to Bryan. It's like, okay, 3 phases. It takes time. It's a lot of information. What can we do about that?
And you got to love consultants sometimes. They ask you questions you don't want to hear. And I said, well, Frank, okay, that's lots of stuff, but what would really be your 20%? I mean, if you had to fit it in 3 days, what would you do and what would you cut? And, there's this problem of all your little darlings. Okay, I have to do this and I definitely have to do that. And then the question that also comes up is, if you wanted to accelerate this process, who would you bring in? Would it be customers? Would it be experts and all these type of things?
Yeah, so for me, out of what you have to deliver, it's really important to align people. I had so many challenges sometimes to get the C-suite really aligned with the team working on the brand every day. So aligning people is really key for me. Um, the narrative, I didn't want to put it aside because the narrative, I mean, coming from the storytelling approach, I love to have a common narrative for the company or the brand, so it's very important. Structuring a brand platform or a brand strategy that resonates not only to the stakeholders, but also to, mostly to the people. And I think what I really didn't want to give away, it's this first creative mood, right? To understand a little bit, because sometimes when it comes to brand building, it's like it can be extremely rigid and monolithic. But if you come with some ideas and you come to creative vibes, etc., it can be easier to understand. So yeah, so that was for me the most important. And then Bryan said, okay, so how many people should come? I mean, how many people should be part of this process? And I was like, oh my God, okay. A lot of people should be part of it. So from the brand side, the CEO, if possible, the chief marketing officer, the brand manager, maybe some parts of departments, communication, innovation. I mean, the brand is touching a lot of different people inside the company. So obviously you want to involve the maximum of people. Then if they have an agency of record, if they work with an agency on a regular basis, yes, you want some people from their agency to be there. So it can be on the creative side, on the account side, etc. And then ideally, but it's not easy, you would like to have some consumers part of it, right? To test ideas or to challenge, to ask questions, to understand what is possible to do. And of course, because you've done all this work about personas, you want those profiles to be part of it. And experts are always a great idea, right? Experts. If you are in a certain category or a certain vertical, you love to have some experts coming in, giving advice, giving their knowledge, etc., etc. Well, then it ends up with 20 to 30 people, part of the process, which is extremely complex.
Frank, you notice I chose a beach party because it looks like you're having a party there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But it does, 5 weeks, 50 people, I can understand why there's a little bit of pushback. And we went on with this and we talked a little bit about, an alternative method of dealing with this. Something I do a lot in is I do innovation sprints. And innovation sprints are a powerful way to focus on the essentials and a powerful way to get the right people involved. They cut away the things that you're doing, they put in a structure, and the right people, they might come in at just the right point in time. For those of you who don't know what a sprint is, there's lots and lots of definitions. Probably the best origin or best description is in the book Sprint by Jake Knapp. He's probably most famously associated with, but basically a sprint is something for a period of time with set deliverables. In the sprint that Jake Knapp discusses, he talks about something done over 5 days. Day 1 is about understanding your challenge. Day 2 is defining your challenge. Day 3 is ideating. Day 4 is deciding. Day 5 is prototyping and testing and things coming together. Now, why do you run a sprint? You run a sprint because, first of all, it gets you focused on solving a problem. Just getting people together to try and understand a problem, define a problem, actually takes you a long ways to solving the actual challenge. Another reason why you run a sprint is because it's a place you can get a lot of ideas. And lastly, it's a place where you get real decisions coming out at the end. There's also sort of a practical element of running a sprint. Is they're pretty easy to do. And they're extraordinarily well documented. And what do you need to run a sprint? You need to decide how long it is. It can be, I've seen sprints run for 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 hours, all different types of things. You need to be clear on the deliverables, and you need to have a process to ensure those deliverables come out. And what's good about an organization is almost anybody can lead this. And equally important, and this one you have to, if you're going to take these slides and write something about it, even if you do them wrong, you tend to get good results. And the reason for it is you get people focused on a challenge together. And lastly, they're incredibly well documented. At the end of the talk, or if you take the link that I sent at the beginning, you'll find a link to download information on 12 books, 70 articles, 30 LinkedIn articles, 33 videos, and 6 templates. And this was just a half day of an intern looking for stuff. Now, what happens is this process usually delivers pretty amazing results because it's focused and it's structured. But there are some problems in paradise. The first problem that comes up is too often the sprint is wrong to solve the wrong challenge. When you have the wrong challenge, you get the wrong solution. The second thing is when you're starting out here, it's a little bit of hit or miss because you're bringing a team together. You're not actually sure these people are going to be happy playing together. There's time constraints. So in fact, the ideas that come out are probably oftentimes non-obvious ideas. Fourth, there's an issue in terms of selection bias. Everybody says these are run to validate ideas and to really get consumer feedback, but a lot of times they don't go out of the building and they focus on making decisions, intelligent decisions in their group. Something we'll come back to time and time again is an idea called soaking. If anybody wants to put a guess what soaking is, you can put it in the chat right now. But basically, it's the idea you have to get away from something and let your brain think something else. Your most creative ideas come in the shower. Your most creative ideas come when you're out for a walk. It's the same thing in organizations. You need to have time away from the ideas to make them good. 6, they have low fidelity, half-baked ideas. They have weak action plans. And even if it's 5 weeks, it's 5 days, 5 weeks, people complain about the amount of time that's spent on it. What we've done is we've put together a toolkit. We call it the AI for Innovation Toolkit. We have tools in 5 different categories: alignment, building ideas, communicating, checking, systematically improving, and pitching. These are labeled differently than the parts of a sprint, but they're essentially the same stuff. And effectively what we have is each time we have AI, which provides data or answers based on an input from a user, and then there's some sort of deep thinking, you move on to the next phase. How this works in practice is we bring the AI tools at each phase along the way. In terms of understanding, we can do market assessments many, many times faster than we could before. We can do persona testing. We can set up our true north, figuring out what we want to do. We can do problem framing, stimulus mining. We'll talk a little bit today about mechanical creativity. And for me, this is just amazingly out of this world because you would think that AI can't be more creative than human beings. And I can guarantee you it can be. AI also can do AI, idea review, idea merging. In terms of deciding about ideas, you have to have clarity. You can do synthetic user testing. You can do high fidelity MVPs, interviewing, risk analysis, and lastly, in the final stage, business model design, pitch building, and pitch review. So now you got all these tools that you're supplementing in that 5-day process, making everything run a little bit faster, a little bit better. And what we are able to do is take a 5-day process and squish it down to actually a 2-day process, adding in a bit of soak time, and then a half-day go-to-action thing on the other side. So the final format that we have for a sprint is we do a 2.5-day sprint. We do preparation before. Preparation is really important. Day 1, we define the challenge, build ideas. Day 2, we decide on the ideas we want to go forward. We prototype them and we test them. We take a little bit of time off. and then come back and present the ideas. So my question to you, Frank, if you needed to fit into this format, how would you do it?
Well, that's not an easy task because obviously it's easy to say that brand building is so different from the rest, right? So how different it is? I mean, not sure it's about being different, but obviously the prep work, the preparation work is super important. Super important because this is where you gather all the stimulus. This is where you get your research. This is where you get, all the information, not only about the company, but also about the category and the consumers. Something that even in 5 weeks I was struggling to do is to get more feedback, to have experts part of it, to have more interviews, but also to have more checks with consumers. Believe it or not, also the brand is something, just imagine the brand is something you put everywhere from your front door to, to your packaging and so on. It's very emotional. Building a brand strategy, and then afterwards the creative work is very emotional, very important, very, a lot of gut feeling, a lot of intuition getting into it. And you have to make it right. You have to make it right. So it's not about having hundreds and hundreds of ideas, about having the one idea that will make you really, really outstanding. So if you ask me how I'm gonna fit to 2.5 days, so yeah, the preparation is very important. So if we look at the preparation, it's really about logistics, like where to put the people, but I've just said it, like how to gather all the information for the stimulus, for the strategic assessment, sorry, and to make it work for this particular client, because you need to make sure that you understand the way they work, the way they think, how they're going to use it afterwards. So preparation is super important. Aligning, again, in 5 weeks, aligning is something that sometimes you do very, 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 in a rush. So aligning, I want to keep that because it's all about, understanding everything, understanding the challenges, understanding the objectives, making sure that everybody's got the same level of understanding and of knowledge about what is going to happen. Building, yeah. So as I told you at the beginning, I'm coming from sort of a storytelling approach. So building is about getting the narrative of the brand right. Yeah, so we split into groups. We go through exercises, very specific exercises. We present, we identify some challenges. We work together, etc. We present to each other. So very important. And the most important is like when you get a lot of ideas, a lot of different storylines, how do you merge the ideas? This is what the day one should be for me. Then you get back to it on the second day. You improve your solutions. You try to understand what would be fitting to each other. Feedback is important. I would love to have feedback in this process. So it's about synthetic feedback, like consumers, like how the consumers are reacting to what we've created. And we can present solutions and make some real decisions and structure the work. Why to structure the work? Because in the second part of the day, it's all about making sure that we structure the strategy. Yeah.
Frank, can I ask you a question? Do you remember your first comment to me when I said you should use synthetic users to provide feedback?
Yes, I know.
You weren't very polite about that.
Well, it's always like a challenge because after years and years of having focus groups and so it's it's important. But it said so then the second, I mean the second part of the second day, I would really love to to get to a brand strategy, to understand what is important, the positioning, the benefits, etc. All what you need to do like a brand platform, and to make decisions, and to understand how it would work. So to start working on the hard part of the brand building together. Then we have the soaking time. the soaking time is really about connecting dots. Yeah, it's about synthesizing all the solutions. We've been talking a lot during 2 days. So I would love to have this time, limited time, of course, to really create some connections. And what is very, very important is to make it real, right? So many times when you run a workshop or when you run a few days with a client, it's always difficult to come to a real plan, how to implement it, how to make sure that it's gonna be alive, it's gonna be brought to life. So it's really about presenting, updating, final presentation, having the management involved, and getting to the very, very strict next steps. Of course, it involves, the preparation and the soaking time. We can do that with 2, maybe 3 people, but all the rest is done by a bigger group of people. But please, not 30, maybe less than that, not to involve, too many people in the company. We know it's complicated to have everybody for a few days together.
And Frank, I should put a question in for you about the preparation phase. How long would you typically need to do this?
I would say 2 to 3 weeks. Depends because it involves a lot of interviews. It involves a lot of interacting with the C-suite, etc. So you need some time to get the people in, to find place in the agenda and so on. So yeah, most of the time. In fact, I'm talking about a 5-week program, but almost half of it is about the preparation. Because the rest, you can always, doing differently. So, it's okay. So timings and logistics are still very hard. It's a lot of asynchronous moments. The prep and the soaking, very important moments, but yeah, it's very, very long. And you have this feeling that you force a bit, you pressure a bit too much. And the people, even if it's only a few days of workshops, and we have to be careful about not having them completely, burn on the task. And the logistics, as I said before, you need to have the right people and the right process just to be sure that you have tangible results. Right. So I've been dealing with a lot of people, but at the end of the day, you can see that some of them are, they're not really part of it, or they just come, they comment, but they're not active, so it's quite complicated. So you have to deal with a lot of personalities and a lot of different people.
So I said, AI is your savior, Frank. It's going to help
Yeah,
you fast and wonderful. Tell me about your use of AI.
Yeah, okay. My experience with AI. I don't know for you, for all of you, but I'm quite a beginner in AI. Yeah, I'm still discovering a lot of things. I'm very curious. I'm reading a lot of stuff, but right now it's mostly about quite basic things. I start to understand that what I was doing was quite basic. So, like gathering random facts about the market, understanding, like finding some, some common knowledge. It helps also to start with the task, the fear of the blank page. It's also quite interesting with AI, because suddenly you have a lot of written words. It's like, oh, okay, I can start with something. Editing also is quite or feedback on my content. It's like, I'm not an English native, so it's always like reassuring to have the AI saying, hey, you can say it like this, or you can say it like that. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of blah, 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 and quite generic and mediocre content. So a little bit of frustration. I don't see AI helping too much here. So, and it's always the same. It's like branding is not about doing a lot of things. It's about one great idea, one great direction, one great, inspiration. So this is for me, at least until now, it was a little bit of the opposite of what AI could provide me. All those common replies and things that yeah, I know where it comes from. I've heard about that, etc. More content. It's the rabbit hole effect, yeah. And then I discovered the delve into. I mean, not being an English native, the delve into. I discovered that with the AI text.
Oh, sorry, I got a technical hiccup. So I'm back again. I need AI to lead me forward in the presentation. So, I mean, tell me, thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you guys facing similar issues? I mean, I think AI, you go through this initial love period, which is, wow, it's doing amazing stuff for me. And then you say, well, you know what? It's produced, an 87-page book that nobody's ever going to read. Or it's done an incredible strategic plan that's not very strategic.
Yeah,
So I
actually,
think,
yeah.
I
Sorry.
think you have to balance things out a bit. It's poor as your first language. Okay. Um, so let me start with a few facts and myths about AI. There's a whole bunch of studies out there showing AI versus human beings. Within the area that we're working, there's probably two key metrics when you're developing ideas or creativity things. One is the novelty of the ideas, and two is the value of the ideas. In terms of novelty, what they'll see when you compare AI versus humans, AI tends to be pretty good, but about 10% of humans outperform the AI. On the other side, you got something in terms of value, the ability to create something that somebody wants, and AI is almost always better than the human beings. And that's part of the way the AI is designed. It's about trying to define things that are pleasing to people, the logical next thing for this. I gave an example to Frank and I said, look, you know what? I've got on the left-hand side what the marketing department might come up with, and I have on the right-hand side what AI might come up with. You have seasons, Epicurean, food and wine. Fantastic stuff, but nobody understands what you're saying. On the right-hand side, AI is not going to be so creative, but it's much more focused and to the point. So what you have is this feeling that you're coming back and delivering more value. And AI is a great way to check, in fact, if your great strategy or your great communication is clear or not. There's a really cool study that's out there. And I encourage you, if you want, take a screenshot of this page, read the study. It's worth going through. It's a study that was done by Harvard Business School and Boston Consulting. And they had some of the smartest consultants in the world working with and without AI. They had them working on creative tasks, and they had them first doing the task with AI, without AI, and they had them doing it with AI. What you saw in the results there was an increase, in terms of the results of all the groups. So the best consultants and the worst consultants both increased pretty substantially. So they divided the consultants in two halves. They had the worst consultants, that bottom half, and the top half. Both groups increased their performance quite a bit. If you're looking at 17% increase is an amazing increase. That's 1 day a week. A 40% increase is 2 days a week worth of productivity. But the more important thing here, and this is what I think is people forget, is actually what happened is with AI, the best consultants and the worst consultants came out to have the same level of performance. AI is something that can level all boats, and you get something coming out. A second part of the study, which I think is probably what makes this study really interesting, is they actually gave the consultants challenges that they knew AI would give the wrong answers to. And what they looked at that is they had three groups. They had a group that had no AI. And they said, look, let's see how often they get it wrong. They got it right 85% of the time, which means that 15% of the time they messed up. We had a group that they trained on the use of AI. Had a wonderful guy like me come in and talk about how you use AI, how you use it more AI more effectively. So they were really using it. And that group on this task ended up with a 40% error rate. So in fact, the more you're using AI, oftentimes the more wrong you can be. And the reason for this is AI is really, really good at convincing you the wrong thing is right. So what you have is on one side an upside in terms of using AI. You have a downside where AI can get you pointed in the wrong direction. And for me, what I would say is the trick is to trick and work with AI. First of all, there's 3 myths about AI. One is AI is great for content. Actually, AI is not very great for content. AI creates a lot of content, but where AI, and we're talking AI in terms of generative AI, it's really great for rewriting of content or improving content. There's a second myth that it will deliver high quality content on its own. The answer is no, it won't. In reality, AI needs constraints and domain expertise to create great content. The third one is that AI is faster. I'm sure if you have a junior person in your organization right now using AI, he's come out with tons and tons of paper and tons of ideas. And you find out, in fact, they're getting bogged down. The truth is AI is only faster if it's done right. Now, to give you a bit of understanding of this, you have to understand what generative AI is doing. There's a simple test. So give me a random number between 0 and 100. And you have the answer 42 from ChatGPT about 15% of the time. And I can tell you why ChatGPT gives you the answer, because ChatGPT is trying to predict the next thing that comes in that sentence. It's not actually reading the question that's there. Frank, can you tell them why 42 comes out?
So yeah, the name of my company is Neon 42, but it's not AI generated. It's a brainstorm of real people. But for some reason, knowing that now it's the number that is coming the most often on the AI, it's quite the thing, because it's coming from the Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy. So the book, where the 42 is the answer of the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. So it's coming from there. It was a joke with some friends, and now AI is taking it very seriously. So obviously, yeah.
Does anybody have any guess what other numbers are not represented randomly? You can put them in the chat if you want.
Mm.
And by the way, we're going to take a breather right now. Does anybody have any questions up until now? Raphael, 100. No, that wasn't it. Does anybody have any questions up until now? Frank is great at answering questions.
Yeah, I think Denis and Sam, I had it right with number 7. Yeah.
Yep.
Number of luck.
Yep. 7 is there a lot because lucky number 7. 21 because of blackjack. Number 13 because unlucky number 13. The number 2, and I'm sure the Chinese AI would have a lot of number 6s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My AI advisor is called Frank. Fantastic, Frank. So, within this context, knowing that AI is a people pleaser and it's just trying to predict the next thing, you have to realize that if you ask AI to give you ideas, it will usually give you weak ideas. The trick is quite simply to break the pattern. The easiest way to break the pattern, and I have a whole course on this, but I'm going to give you the whole course in about 2 minutes, is first of all to think about your prompts as cars: context, action, result. Context: think like this person. I want you to do the following action, and I want the result to look like this. These constraints will lead you to better results than just going and asking for ideas. A second thing is called few shot. Basically, what you do is you say, look, I want you to give me ideas, but I want your ideas to look like this because this one looks really good. And the last one, which is an advanced technique, but works very well, is something called chain of thought, is you get your ideas and you try to mimic, for example, how you might evaluate those ideas and how you might improve them. And you ask AI to go through the same steps. So let me give you sort of the rank ordering process. So in terms of prompt effectiveness, give me 10 ideas. Nah, not very good. Give me 10 ideas and give me with a really detailed objective. And I want you to think like this. And I want you to do it this way. And I want you to deliver the results in this format. Pretty good. And when you get those results, analyze the ideas one by one and improve on each of them in the following way. Okay. That's a sideline for some really cool stuff I'm going to show you right now. I get really excited about it. I don't know if anyone else gets really excited about it. It's about AI and creativity. There was a working paper that was done by some people at Wharton and Cornell. Cornell is my alma mater. And they did work on using AI to create ideas. And the final conclusion of the paper was actually AI is pretty good at creating ideas, but it's not better than human beings. But the types of prompts they used were rather limited. So I said, I wonder if I could take the same stuff they did and try to use a smarter version of AI. And what I looked at here is we did a study. We had 260 business school students looking for an internship. Part of their internship is they had to answer a question, which is a creative question, which maybe it's cheating because we're doing this part of research. They had to give us an idea for a physical product for college students in the US, and it had to be less than $50. And what we measured is the creativity and the value of those ideas. So basically, the quality of the ideas, purchase intention, and novelty. And we ran a test. We had students working by themselves. We had students who were given ChatGPT and say, go ahead, crack on. We were giving students with ChatGPT and help defining objectives and AI. And then we had a last group, which was defining objectives and smart AI. Now, smart AI doesn't have to be complex AI. We gave students a series of prompts. This is, for example, one of the prompts. Please generate 80 ideas based on the TRIZ inventive principles for your challenge. For each of the 40 TRIZ principles, propose 2 ideas. Doesn't think like you come up with something very fantastic there. But I guarantee you, if you want to take a second screenshot, run this on any problem you're facing, you'll find that the results are pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. If you want even more amazing, you can go over to something. We have an AI for Innovation toolkit. You can go in there, you can select an ideation method. You describe a target. That is critical because if you don't have a target, your ideas don't help. You push a button to get insights, and what will pop out on the other side is tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of ideas. Approximately, for one challenge, we generate around 1,000 ideas. For this study, we generated 5,402 ideas, 280 that came from humans, 460 from humans plus ChatGPT, and 4,662 were humans plus ChatGPT. Now, I get excited about this, but let me tell you what's exciting. So the first thing you can do is you can look at the results in 3 different ways. And I'm going to tell you the first 2 ways are easy. One is the quality of the ideas. And quality of ideas is purchase intention by novelty. We have a score somewhere between 0 and 10. We have human beings by themselves having 4.2 on average. We have a slight increase over time, the more that they're using AI tools. But for all practical significance, there is a statistically difference, but there is no practical difference in the quality of ideas. AIs and humans are delivering, on average, the same quality of ideas. We have a second thing that we can look at when we look at ideas, which is novelty. And one way that you can measure novelty is through a technical method called cosine similarity. And what you're doing there is you're measuring the similarity of ideas. And the similarity could be how similar a description is. So, for example, this is a happy person is quite close to this is a very happy person. That's a happy dog is probably not so far away, but it's a dog instead of a person. And today's a sunny day is probably a lot further away. You can do the same thing with ideas. Ideas that are very similar have a high score. Ideas which are dissimilar have a low score. And here you want to have a low score. So what we look at here is we have the numbers from human beings. human beings do better than AI, substantially better. And we say, okay, look, all things considered, I've just wasted a bunch of time. I've done a whole bunch of research, but you probably don't expect it to end there. What we ended up doing is we did one step further, is we said, look, what are the ideas that people are looking for in life? They're not looking for 5,000 ideas. What they're looking for is a few great ideas. So what we did is we drew in a level here, and we actually just categorized all the ideas over a certain score. So we had 250 top ideas, and here's where the numbers come out really different. And now what we're measuring here is not the number of ideas, but the frequency which the ideas pop up. So if I look at human beings, let's get here. Human beings are generating, one top idea per 100. Human beings with AI, 1.5. That's a step in the right direction. Human beings with just a clear idea of the target, generating 2. But all these other things, all these smart AI things are generating somewhere between 5 and 8 times more ideas. This is not the number of ideas, but it's the frequency of ideas. It's really important because it's really easy to generate more ideas. This is not just more ideas, but a higher hit rate. So closing this out, and what we're looking at, smart AI is about better, faster results, lower risks. And if we look at HI, humans or HI, neither one's a clear winner. Humans plus HI, you get better results, but you get more failures. Smart AI, which is predefined tools, knowledge on how to use the tools, and knowledge how to interact, give you better results. And that leads us to things like being able to run a 5-day sprint in 2 days, delivering a lot better results. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the role of AI in a sprint as we're looking at it from the stuff that Frank put together. Basically, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you really quickly where AI could fit in, and I'll give you a few examples. And remember, we have 259 tools and 6 apps, so we can't cover things off all the way. What we're going to do is we'll get to the end of this. We're going to get to a point where you can give us feedback, and the people who want to stick around and ask questions, you can stick around, but we'll make sure that we're done on time for everybody that's here. So if you want, you can go to this tool. There's an open access version. They run pretty well out of the box, not always. When we run a sprint, we use tools that are offline and customize all the tools. Our sprint looks something like the thing I presented with Frank earlier: prep, align, build, extend, soak, make it real. We personalize and run lots of different types of sprints. We run a basic product sprint where we don't change anything. We run sprints for education, sprints for AI, sprints for healthcare. And each time we adapt the basic process. You have a recipe and you say, oh, I'm going to switch out that ingredient. I'm going to switch out this ingredient. And we get to something that's slightly different. Let's look at just a second at our AI augmented sprint. And we say, look, what would we put within this process to make it work and fit together well? In the preparation stage, we have some things which are market assessment and stimulus development. What we have, you need to know, is the most important part of this process is preparation. We've got a detailed market assessment tool. You upload some objectives to ChatGPT, to our tool. It gives you a reasonably good result. It's not very good for the branding stuff, but it's probably something that could be fixed. We use AI in terms of prep stage to define objectives, but probably most interesting in terms of getting people on the same page. In the prep phase, we make a private GPT, which has all the information, the market assessment and external data in one place. We also use AI to generate alternative visuals. Here's an example of a creative I made, failed creative. I said, look, please, Mr. AI, give me some different alternatives. Give me the 9 most popular artistic styles, make my cover and all those different things. And you'll see that everything that AI did was better than I did. And the time for this is about 15 minutes. The next stage here is about how do you go step forward. And what we're looking at here is an align and build. The first part here is bringing people together to think about the problem. That's not really AI. Secondly, we have tools that when people have defined a problem, the AI can give you feedback to evaluate the clarity and suggest alternative challenges. But most important at this stage is we have this thing called mechanical creativity. You throw in an idea, we throw a bunch of ideation tools, we get approximately 1,200 ideas that'll pop out. In terms of the next stage, in terms of communicate and check, we have a couple things there. We have, we start our day bringing ideas together. We have a whole series of tools which are around improving your messaging, different ways to make your brands, different communication tools. I did a quick test for Neon. Our input here was the Neon basic brand concept. We had on one side some iconic selling lines, and we said, AI, can you please make new selling lines for Frank based on this iconic selling lines? So they went from the Ford quality is job one to disrupting is job number one. We then can make derivatives of those. And we said, look, we like these things, but we want to change them around and we want to make them sound more like Avis tries harder because, in fact, there's an idea of challenger brands. And we have here, for example, one I really like, which is they came up with the ultimate brand making machine and the ultimate brand making partner, always pushing harder. And step number 3 is we put together a way to evaluate this by different personas, and we can evaluate one by one. This, very limited, is we take approximately 20 selling lines, one persona shown, but when we do this in a sprint, we can take 2,000 selling lines, 10 personas, generate 2,000 data points, where AI is building the first ideas, extending the ideas, and evaluating the ideas. You can use AI to make prototypes. You can use AI to do synthetic testing. You can come up here. You can use AI in the soak period. We have a tool here which allows you to make structured interviews fast. We have a pitch making tool. We have a pitch evaluation tool. And it all comes together to the last day. And I see we have bringing it all together at the end, presenting ideas, evaluating the ideas. And I covered a lot of stuff here, but I didn't get to it. But basically what we're looking at, 3 minutes left, is our promise is 2 to 3 times more results in half the time. We've run sprints with human beings, with and without AI. The AI version wins because there's more time for thinking about strategies and idea assessment. There's more time for idea testing and validation. There's more ideas. There's more idea iteration. There's better higher fidelity fast. And we end with a pitch session, which brings everything together. Frank, over to you. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah. So, well, what is quite great is like AI is not doing the work. It's like AI is really supporting you. So this is very important to understand. So what you get, the benefits of a traditional sprint, alignment, less people required, real testing, twice as much in half the time. But also the benefits of our branding sprints is really like you get the job to be done extremely clear, the positioning, the value proposition, the mission, etc., the structure of your brand. And you have some creative guidance because AI is helping you also to give a personality to your brand, a tone of voice, and some first visual elements. So, of course, there is still some work to be done later on, but the foundations are there, and this is very important. So, if you are familiar with branding and brand building, a typical agency can really go from 50 to 200K. It can be more. It can be much more. When I worked on Pepsi, it was much more. Just to change the logo, by the way. But our offer is obviously quite effective because it combines all the tools that you will discover a little bit more. So we can really propose something really efficient and really great from 15 to 40K. So that's That's also extremely important to mention.
So one thing that's important to remember here, we're not doing less work or less developed work. You have senior people who've been leading agencies. You have senior people developing stuff. It's just we work as an independent and you don't pay the overhead of a big branding agency. Now, a question that you might ask is, could you do this on your own? The answer is almost certainly you could, especially if you download all the resources and you read, the 112 articles that are there. But what we do is we make it better, easier, and faster. We also teach you how to do it so that you can do it the next time. Mm-hmm. Now, what I see, what comes as our value add is detailed expertise in branding, in sprints, and AI. Both Frank and I share a really common value, which is a do-it focus. We like working for mid-sized companies. We like things coming together, and we have skills and a toolkit there. Now, I promised that we would finish on time. So Frank just sent you a link in the chat, which is for free feed. So if you fill in the feedback, you get a free copy of my book. Hopefully somebody wants to read my book. A link to try the AI for Innovation Toolkit, updates as we build new tools, and a whole bunch of resources on how to run a sprint. And now, without anybody being rude, you can go because we got into the end. But the people who would like to stay and ask questions, and especially anyone who wants to ask a tough question, you're very welcome to ask a tough question to Frank.
I'm ready.
What do people think?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Frank. It's Akif from Saudi Arabia. Yeah, your talk was fantastic. A lot of it resonated with what I'm doing at the moment. I'm in healthcare. I'd love to hear your thoughts on about AI and the dependency as we're moving forward in healthcare, in private companies, whatever industry we're in. We are becoming more and more dependent on AI, adapting towards refining our work and our processes, like you so eloquently mentioned. In a way, what the dependency factor that I'm asking about is, like, when Google Maps first came out. Before that, when we were driving our cars, we were so sure of where we were going and the directions and the street names and the way we were communicating, even maybe reading maps if you go back another 15 years prior to that. But once it's come out, we've become so dependent on it that if it's not available to us at the time, that we will say, oh my God, which direction do I go? I'm in a new country. How do I move through this? So saying that, as we are becoming more and more dependent on AI, do you think it's impacting our thought processes in branding, marketing, even letter writing or content writing? And if that wasn't available to us for whatever reason, we're out in a board meeting somewhere and we don't have that, how well do you think we would be able to perform in the future as AI becomes more and more as part of our world? I don't know if it's a tough question, but
it's a tough question. But Frank, actually, I've done some work on this one, so let me answer this one. I'm looking Frank going.
Yeah, thank you very much for your support here.
AI making us more stupid? The answer is yes, and it's doing it pretty consistently. Is AI making us smarter? Yes. In fact, what you end up with is when you use AI to learn a skill better, you learn the skill substantially better. Now, if you're a lazy student, you're going to learn it even less well. So what happens is it comes back not to the tool being the problem, but more the motivation of the learner and the user of those tools. We've just done some study on people's ability to pitch. We had them use AI to make their pitch. Everybody made a better pitch. The people that were motivated and really learned from the tools, 6 months later, could make better pitches without the AI. So the AI became an important part of the process. I don't know if that answers your full question, but I think it's the most important part is, can we work smart with AI? Yes. Will we become dependent on AI? Yes. And is there a way around it? Yes.
For the smart people.
For the smart people, for the motivated people. Like my friend Shane Smart over there. I see him on the side. He's one of the smartest guys I know.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I think it's more for the curious rather than the smarter.
Yeah.
If you're curious, you'll succeed.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to, there's a really cool book out right now called The Skill Code, showing how AI can be used to augment the learning process, and people are learning much better. It's really, really, and I think it's going to come up everywhere. But what I do see is, the stuff that's coming in terms of creative work, you can see what's generated by AI, and some of it's pretty bad. So I love that question. Does anybody else have an easier question?
Yeah, possibly. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, I know it's easier or harder, but see, the preparation part, as you said, is a very important phase in the whole thing. So, are there ways in which you can get the AI using those preparation outputs better, or how do you actually integrate the AI into the preparation part?
I can try on this one, because from my point of view, when you prepare to get the knowledge about the market or knowledge about the company, there is always like a bit of a bias, right? You're coming from somewhere, you have an intuition, or maybe you've worked on a similar brand a bit in the past, etc. So you have your angle, and I found AI giving me much more, spectrum in the way I could understand. So if you ask me, and again, compared to Bryan, I'm still in the process of learning and digesting and stuff. Do I learn something completely new? Maybe not. But do I enlarge the spectrum of the directions, or the entry points I can get the problem in? Yes, totally. Because AI has got this thing about really giving you a lot of different angles. So that it helps a lot to have a better view of what is your challenge. I agree. Yeah.
Thanks, Frank. I think that's quite enlightening.
I love these questions. Thank you, everybody. Frank, do you want to close with final words of wisdom?
So 42 is the number. That's the first thing. And now, thank you very much, everybody. And yeah, so we hope to talk to you, so you have all the material. Please have fun with it. I think it can also, like, as you were saying, that you have to be curious, Shane. So I think this is very, very much into discovering, testing, understanding, etc. And obviously, if you have some questions, or if you want to talk further, please book a bit of time with us, and we can go through your challenges. So thank you again. It's the end of July, and your commitment is really appreciated. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And I really enjoyed it. And send your questions, do the feedback form. We'll love you for it. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.